When it comes to taller cars, well, in the Philippines at the very least, we hear the term midsize and immediately we think 7-seater SUV. So in this episode of Behind the Wheel, we're going to tread carefully and make sure we use the term midsize crossover, just to be clear. A unibody, not a body on frame. A segment that I wish they had more models of because it is an absolute pleasure to drive. You've got the CX-9, you've got the Santa Fe, and this, the 2019 Kia Sorento all-wheel drive. Acquired by Ayala Corporation earlier this year, Kia busts out the new Sorento with LED DRLs and a trifecta headlamp, fog lamps that are projectors, a slightly redesigned new bumper, and of course, the Tiger Nose grille, which kind of reminds me of the Nova Blockade from Guardians of the Galaxy. All in all, it's got a very modern look. You've got chrome accents on the windows, repeaters on the side mirrors, but rather common curves on the side panels. Now, it does have ample ground clearance at 185 millimeters, and it does sit on 18-inch mags and 60 series tires. However, I do think that they look rather small because the wheel wells are so big. Honestly, I think it would look better with 20-inch mags. I mean, it is a soft roader after all. Now, the configuration of the rear lights are similar to that of the Carnival. However, the configuration inside is very different, more so apparent at night. Pretty. Now, the power tailgate will reveal 320 liters of space with the third row still up. That's good enough for your average size golf bag or a stroller that's not too bulky. Down here underneath, you will find your tools. And apparently, enough plastic to make any Kardashian happy for a decade. Anyway, so you've got 320 liters of space up here. If you fold the third row via these tethers, you're looking at over 1,000 liters of space, which is a lot. But if you fold the second row via the latches on the side, then you're looking at over 2,000 liters of space, or basically a queen-size bed. Gives me an idea. To see how the Sorento stacks up on paper, or rather on your screen, against other mid-size crossovers, click the link right here. Here, there. And if you can't click that, follow the link below in the description. There it is. The third row is great for small and medium-sized adults, which is pretty cool. You've got cup holders on either sides, air vents, and air controls for the third row, which I think is pretty cool and is absolutely awesome in my book. See, not for anything, but this little thing, it actually makes you feel like you're part of the journey, part of the car, instead of being relegated to the third row, if you know what I mean. Leather found all around, and great space that can be found here in the second row. Good headroom, legroom. That's my normal driving position. That's Vincent's sleeping position. And fitting 3 average-sized adults in here, not a problem. 2 average-sized adults, this thing would be like a limousine. And the seats are actually pretty darn comfortable. Now, you've got a center armrest with cup holders, bottle holders on either doors. You've got a low tunnel here in the center, which makes for great space, a 12-volt socket for charging stuff, and air vents found here in the center. However, there is no air control found here for the second row like there is in the third row. You'd think there would be one up here, but there's none, really. Zero. The interior up front is carried over from the previous generation, which is to say it's got a sectionalized feel to it, like a plate of food and you don't want anything touching one another. You got the air vents all by itself, the 7-inch infotainment system all by itself, the air controls, okay, granted it's not gated, but it's there by itself, not touching anything else, no touchy-touchy. And it works too, because it's pulido. Here in the center, you've got your average speedometer and tachometer, which flanks the trip computer. You've got a feel-good steering wheel with audio and cruise controls. Cubby holes here up front, enough to probably store all of my daughter's My Little Ponies. Sadly, no sunroof, but there is power seats. I'm a sucker for power seats, because it's like business class, man. I love it. Ah! Sorento is powered by a 2.2-liter diesel engine that pushes out 197 horses. Now, thanks to that diesel, it's also got 441 newton-meters of torque, which is very impressive. It's not daunting, which is a nice thing, because while driving the car, the steering is very light. The car feels extremely nimble. Now, just like all diesel engines, at low speeds or even at standstill, the engine noise does creep in a little bit. But once you get going, and most especially on the highway, yeah, that's not a factor. Now, being a unibody, it does sacrifice the true capabilities of what a 4x4 can really do. But what it does translate to is a much smoother ride. It doesn't jolt, it doesn't stumble, it has no hiccups over rumble strips. You're in for a very smooth ride. It coasts along, yet still being absolutely stable. And it has become increasingly difficult for this guy to stay awake. In an SUV, you ride higher. In here, the center of gravity is much lower, which means it's not as taxing. It still has boatloads of space. The dimensions alone are longer and wider than some 7-seater SUVs. But it doesn't feel like it. Whether you're on the city or on the highway, it doesn't feel like you're hauling that much length. It really truly is an unbothered drive. Oh, and speaking of city and highway, the all-wheel drive Sorento's fuel economy is 9 and 16 kilometers per liter, respectively. The 2019 Kia Sorento all-wheel drive is available at 2,195,000 Philippine pesos. Now, I've seen prettier, but that's not to say that this thing isn't good looking, because it really is. Granted, it doesn't have as much bling or as many toys as the other cars in this segment, but it does present itself as the most affordable all-wheel drive 7-seater mid-size crossover that is powered by a diesel engine. Enough said.